Hey guys, what's up? Anil here from Learning Led Education, and in this tutorial I'm gonna teach you how to write a C program which is gonna check whether a number is a prime number or a composite number. A prime number is a natural number greater than 1 that has no positive divisors other than 1 and itself. Or in other words, we can say that a natural number which is greater than 1 is said to be a prime number if it is perfectly divisible by 1 and by itself. And if it is perfectly divisible by some other numbers other than 1 and itself, then we can say that number is a composite number. So a composite number is nothing but a number which is not a prime number. So in this tutorial, what we're going to do is, we're going to ask the user to enter the number to check whether that number is prime number or a composite number. Once the user enters the number, then we're going to check whether that number is completely divisible by any numbers other than 1 and itself. If it is so, then we're going to print out, this number is a composite number. Else we're gonna print out this number is a prime number. So for example, let's assume the user is gonna enter a number 7. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start dividing this number which is entered by the user. In this case it is 7, starting from 2. So we're gonna divide this number from 2, and here this 2 is not gonna completely divide this number 7. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna divide the 7 by 3, and this 3 is also not gonna completely divide this number 7. Now we don't need to check for 4 because this 4 is more than half of this number. So if we take the half of this number which is gonna be 3.5, and this 4 is greater than this 3.5. So there is no possibility that a number which is greater than 3.5 can divide this number 7 completely. So for example, let's say we have the number 100. So at that time the range of numbers that can completely divide this 100 is gonna be from 2 to 50, because when we come to 51, at that time this 51 is greater than the half of this number 100, which is 50. So there's no way that this 51 is gonna completely divide this number 100. So what we're gonna do in this tutorial is we're gonna check whether the number entered by the user is completely divisible from 2 up to the half of the entered number. So if it is confusing, don't worry, when we write the program, it's gonna be clear. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna write the program. So the variables that we're gonna use in this tutorial are gonna be integer variables, and we're gonna have the number which is gonna contain the value entered by the user, and then we're gonna use a loop in our program. So we're gonna use a counter variable, and then we're gonna use another variable which is gonna help us to determine whether the number entered by the user prime or not. So I'm gonna call it as is prime, and we're gonna initialize this one with a value of 0. So if this is prime variable is gonna contain a value of 0, then it's gonna mean that the number entered by the user is a prime number, else it's gonna be a composite number. So we're gonna modify this is prime variable in our program. The next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna ask the user to enter the number. So I'm gonna use a printf statement, and I'm gonna say enter the positive integer to check for prime or composite. And then I'm gonna add a new line just to make it pretty, and then we're gonna receive the value entered by the user. So I'm gonna use a scanf function, and then it's gonna be the %d format specifier, and then we're gonna store that in our number variable. And the next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna check for whether the number entered by the user is prime or not. So here what we're gonna do is we're gonna use a for loop and start dividing the number entered by the user from 2. So I'm gonna use a for, and we're gonna initialize our counter variable, and we're gonna start dividing from 2, and that's why the counter is gonna be equal to 2 at the beginning, and then we're gonna check for whether the counter is less than or equal to number divided by 2. We're gonna continue to divide the number entered by the user up to half of that number, and then we're gonna increment our counter variable, so it's gonna be counter plus plus, and then we're gonna use a if statement here inside this for loop, and we're gonna say if, and I'm gonna use another pair of parentheses, and I'm gonna say whether number mod counter is it equal to 0. If it is so, it's gonna mean that the number entered by the user is not a prime number. It means that the number entered by the user is completely divisible by any of the value which will be stored in this counter variable. And here what we're gonna do is we're gonna change the value of this is prime variable, so it's gonna be is prime, and we're gonna change that one to 1. And the next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna come out of this for loop. There is no point checking for some other numbers, because once a number is completely divisible by a number other than 1 and by itself, it's gonna mean that that number is not a prime number, so it has to be a composite number. And then outside this for loop, we're gonna use a if statement to check the value of this is prime variable. If is prime equal to 0, then it's gonna mean that the number is a prime number. So I'm gonna use a printf statement, and I'm gonna say %d is a prime number, and I'm gonna copy this printf statement, and we're gonna use the else part. In this else part, I'm gonna paste that printf statement, and also we need to refer the number variable here and here also, and we're gonna say is a composite number. And the next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna have a return statement, and we're gonna return 0. Alright, and now I'm gonna save this program, and I'm gonna run this build and run, and enter the positive integer to check for prime or composite. I'm gonna enter 7, and I'm gonna hit enter. It says 7 is a prime number. Alright, then I'm gonna run it again, and this time I'm gonna enter 6, and I'm gonna hit enter button, and it says 6 is a composite number. So this is how you guys can write a program in C programming language to check whether the number entered by the user is a prime number or a composite number. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Check out my website for the source code of this tutorial, and also you guys can find some other cool tutorials, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.